Questions about promo thing. I'm going to hit record. Okay. Recorder's on. Take one for the amazing Francis Pappalardo. Go.
Hey everyone, this is Francis Pappalardo, and you are joining me today on the amazing Vroom Vroom Beer podcast with Jeff Smith. And I believe, Jeff, you're the winner of a long-standing handstand contest. I just heard that recently. Is that true?
Let's go with yes. Sure. Why not?
It's a rumor I heard.
I heard that somewhere. I might have written it down and then read it, and that makes it true. That was awesome. Thank you. I'm going to hit stop. I'll be right back.
Are you ready to thoughtfully steer away from your revved up, frenzied, and far too often scripted life? Then welcome to Vroom Vroom Veer with Jeff Smith, where he guides you down the road differently traveled by sharing unique experiences with guests who have managed to shift away from a life stuck on cruise control and veered their way into a more authentic and fulfilling one in all sorts of interesting and kind of remarkable ways. Get ready to Vroom Vroom Veer with your differently traveled road chauffeur, Jeff Smith.
Scott Sunderland. Thank you so much for being on Vroom Vroom Veer, and welcome to the show. How's it going, man?
It is going very good, Jeff. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. You look like you're living life on 11, like all the time now. That's just the vibe that I get off of you.
It's not. It takes work to be an 11 all the time.
Of course, but you're not. Obviously, nobody's on 11
not
all
always.
the time. Of course, not always. No,
and that's what makes it fun.
But when you show up,
to have contrast.
When you show up for a podcast, you are usually on 11.
Oh, oh yeah, I'm an 11. Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about what you're most excited about over at the Freedom Project today.
Helping people transform their lives, helping them become unstuck, helping them to find out who they really are. That is what we do, and that's what I love helping people do.
Yeah.
And that is really what it's all about.
I was thinking like there's only like a couple people that don't need to start doing this work on the planet, and those are the people that have already started.
Yeah. But they still need to start because you're always starting.
Okay. All right. Okay. I get where you're going. Yes. Yeah. Start again.
Yeah. You're always rediscovering who you are.
That's true. And it doesn't stop. It's not one of these things where you start the work and then you finish like a project. It's not like building some cabinets or something. It's
an education.
Yeah, it keeps going.
It's education. You go through first grade, then you go to second, and then pretty soon you're in 10th, and it just keeps on going.
Yeah. Yes. You don't graduate either. You just keep going. No.
That's what life is.
It's school.
Yeah, it's school. It's education.
Okay. So let's go back in time because you've got an amazing story. So let's talk about Scott. Like in the first 6 years of your life, where did you grow up and what was childhood like for you?
Oh, it's so crazy. I just went back to my house where I grew up just the other night.
Ooh.
Just the other night.
Did you go in or just drive by? Or?
Oh, I'll get to tell you the story.
Okay.
You asked, I'm telling you the story. So
please.
I lived in not too far from where I am now, right outside of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania.
Right.
And in a small home and broken marriage. My mother was really sick, alcoholic, hooked on prescription pills.
Wow.
My brother and my sister and I lived with her. And at 3 years old, I was feeding myself,
wow.
Doing everything. And
3 years old. Wow.
3. And I was the only one home. My brother and sister were in school. And every day I would sit on my front step. And I never really understood, did I put myself out there? Did my mom put me out there? But my mom would kind of be laying comatose on the couch, with a fifth of vodka.
Wow.
And just as a side note, my mom passed away 2 years ago.
Okay.
And she totally transformed her life. And she probably helped more people find out who they were than I can only hope to help as many as she has.
So she did recovery as they say?
Oh yeah, she did
Okay.
recovery. I mean, 45 years sober.
Oh, wow. Holy cow.
Transformed so many people's lives.
That's
and
amazing.
Just so many stories.
That's good for her. Yeah.
Oh, it was amazing to watch.
But addiction is
she
one of
lost
those,
everything in order to get it.
Of course. That's not an easy road. And lucky for her, because a lot of people with the addiction sort of like disease, they don't survive it. So I would think, you know, and that's one of those too that it's like, okay, if you have like get a broken leg or cancer or any other disease, people don't go, ugh, that person, they got like, they had a heart attack. What's wrong with them? What are they? Let's judge people that have cancer. They got cancer? Ew, gross.
Yeah.
But addicts, of course we're going to judge them and shame them.
Well, I think it's an issue of not fitting. You know, they can't fit into the culture of what this,
I never
reality
thought about it
is.
that way. Right.
You know, and that's why we work with people that have been, in addiction, and it's really, maybe they were right by not fitting, because, when you turn 50 years old and you realize that, oh, I've been working my whole life for all of this, for the house, for the cars, for the boat, for all, the IRA and the 401k, and when does the happiness come? And I was there, and, I worked my ass off, and I own a construction company, still own the construction company. And, I was just waiting for the fulfillment and the happiness to come.
Right.
They said, get the house. I got the house.
Right.
Nope. Then you have to get something else. And then you have to put an addition on it. And then it's like you're chasing and looking for this happiness.
Do you remember,
and it doesn't show up.
What was that show when we were kids? The Jetsons?
Oh, I love the Jetsons.
Jane, get me off this crazy thing.
Yeah. Oh, I love the Jetsons.
Yeah, but what you're talking about, that I call that the hedonistic treadmill, right?
Yeah.
The thinking that the next thing you buy will make you feel good forever.
Yeah.
And you'll never have to.
And that was me.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was me. I was it. And I still have a little bit of that.
We all have a little bit of that.
Most of everything away. We really don't have much.
Right.
And I kind of love that. But I'm not a minimalist, by any stretch.
Yeah. I think you can take anything to an extreme. I think, as long there's nothing wrong with stuff as long as you're just enjoying it for what it is. It's just stuff.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
If you don't have that shempa, have you ever heard of shempa? It's like this sort of like neediness. From Buddhist tradition. Right?
Yeah.
If you don't, if you're just enjoying a thing because you're enjoying a thing, like I love Netflix, I love my toys, right? My computer games, nothing wrong with that, right?
Yeah.
Do I need it? Yeah. No, not really. Yeah. It's just fun, right? Yeah. If I didn't have it, would I be a little pissed? A little, right? I'd be a little pissed, but it wouldn't fundamentally change my life, right? They're just things to screw around with. That's a healthy attitude, Yeah. So, okay, before we get too far down the rabbit hole, let's go back to this story where you went to visit the parents' house.
So
your childhood home.
Shit comes up, I'm
okay.
This is the one thing of doing the work I do.
Yes,
is
the very important.
There is always stuff inside. There's always old emotions, old feelings that you're all dealing with. Yeah. That I always say that it is never the event that causes the emotion or the feeling. It's the feeling and the emotion that causes the events. Right. And
first arrow, second arrow, right?
Yeah, and you would always kind of have that, So, doing what I do, stuff started to bubble up, and a lot of it, being that little boy in that house with a mother who talked to herself a lot, and as a depressive person, an alcoholic, and somebody, addicted to pain pills, I'm sure her conversations weren't exactly loving to herself. So I heard it, out front and loud, and I saw it. And,
right.
So I would sit up on this step, and I would, I know, first off, I would say to my dad, where are you? And why did you leave me here? And why did you put me outside here? To my mom and to my brother and sister, when are you coming home so I can go back inside? And that step really became a cage for me. And
Wow.
even when I left it, I was still in that cage, you know?
Wow. So that was basically your little escape refuge.
That was, well, it wasn't even an escape. It was kind of like it was a prison, but
like
at
a little
the same
lily
time,
pad of survival.
it was a prison of thought. Like it was a cage filled with thoughts. It was my head, because all these thoughts are going through my head. Why am I here? Where is my father? When am I going to get back inside? And where are all the other kids sitting out on their front porches? Because there's no one here. It's only me. And I'm out in this world. And, you know, I just want to go back inside and watch my cartoons, you know?
Right.
And so I said to my wife, just had a lot coming up. And I said, I think we're actually leaving here in 2 days, and we're going to be traveling around the country for 4 months. And I said, I think we recently moved to Florida. We came back to PA for the month. And I said, I think I came back here for closure.
Okay.
And I think I need to put this behind me. And I said, we're going for a ride. And we drove to this house, this neighborhood that I grew up on. And as we pull up, I just wanted to see it. And this house, actually, believe it or not, was in a TV show. They filmed it inside this house called Do No Harm. That was the name of the TV show, which is, I mean, this is a suburb outside of Philadelphia. I mean, seriously, out of all the houses, this house, Do No Harm. And it was filmed in this house.
In the same house you grew up in?
100%. In the house that
I can go look at the stoop that you're talking about.
Yes, you can. Yes, you can. And this story,
yes.
I think it was one season, and it was just absolutely bizarre, you know, because they filmed it there because this house was stuck in the 70s. Nothing ever changed. They didn't change anything. So the timeline was in the 70s.
Gotcha.
And it was about two brothers, and the brothers were older, and they would flash back when they were little boys.
Right.
And here is me and my brother living in this house, and my sister just stayed in a room because she was the hider. And it was a story of me and my brother, and it was mind blowing to watch this. And
that's a little too Twilight Zone-y for me.
It's all inside you. It's all inside you.
I know, right? That's
you
crazy.
Create the reality, right?
Yes.
So I pull up to this house and I see it, and there's this little kid. He's probably 3 years old, and he's standing in the bay window, like this, you know, hands up against the window, standing there. And I'm like, oh my God. And my wife's getting a picture of the house. And then, you know, we drive away and we turn around and come back to my side so I can get a picture. And the kid's standing in the window again. And so crazy. And there's his dad behind him. And he's just kind of walking through the living room, but he's looking right at me, taking a picture of his son, or the house, but his son is in this picture. So we drive away, and I said, you know what? I don't feel right about that. I want to go back. I think I need to go back. And then I turned around in the driveway, and I go back and pull up in front of the house, and the dad's, you know, he even waved, you know.
Okay.
And I said, come here. And he comes out and he opens the door, and I said, listen, I didn't want to make this weird. I wasn't taking pictures of your son standing in the window. I grew up in that house. And he's like, oh, come here. Come on, please. Tell me all about it. We just moved here 6 years ago.
Wow.
And I know the people before us were here forever. So I guess they bought it from your parents, maybe. Anyway, I said, listen, I have a request. I would love to get a picture of me sitting on that step. And he said, oh yeah, come on. You know, my wife, you know, we get out and I sit on the step, and she snaps a picture real quick. And all of a sudden the door opens behind him. And it's his wife. And all of a sudden 4 kids, including the 3-year-old, 4 kids come out, and they're now standing behind me on my step. And my wife gets a picture of that. And it was the most beautiful thing ever, because I have the one picture of me sitting on my step. And then now you have the 5 of us sitting on this step. And she says, hello. And the mom. And, anyway, through the whole house, the bedrooms, and it was so surreal going back. And it was the true definition of healing.
Right.
And then my wife the whole time's like, I don't think you understand what you are doing for this man right now, because he is literally healing in front of your eyes.
Wow.
And I was insane.
You'll be processing that for a while.
I think so.
I think so. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's important to process that. So I have to just interject a little of me here.
Sure.
Because it's so sad listening to your trauma from 3 years old. I think my earliest memory, it's probably when I was 4, right? Mm-hmm. And I remember being really upset that the last neighborhood kid that I played with was starting kindergarten a year before me. And I wasn't going to have anybody to play with. That was my big traumatic event. Sorry. I had, so it's just all of my memories of that time are like sunshine and grass smell, right? It's just beautiful, right?
Well, I'll be honest. Mine were too. I didn't know the difference. For me, this was just my life. I mean, sitting on the step, I had those thoughts, and those thoughts when you're 3, 4, 5, 6 years old.
Yeah, they're scary.
You process them and you hold them inside your body. That's what we do as human beings.
Yeah, and that's like the early time when your brain is still forming.
Yes.
And you're myelinating. What do they call them? The myelated circuits are being created in your brain. Yeah. So it becomes you. That becomes adult you. Right.
Yeah, your environment becomes. Yeah, you are a product of your
emotional love kind of relationships have a huge effect.
Oh, and your parents. Your parents.
Right.
Your siblings.
Your primary caregivers. Right.
That starts in the womb. I mean, that literally starts from -9 months to 6, 7, even 8 years old.
Right.
So if you have parents that they're arguing and fighting, that's your whole world.
Right.
And you're laying in bed and you are scared shitless because there's mommy and daddy and they're fighting, and chances are your name's coming up because it came up for mine. Right. And I know and it's my fault now because my name is being, and of course it's not what's being said, but it's how you're computing it, because there's no other world outside of you, your siblings, and your parents.
Right.
When you're that age, especially growing up in the 70s. So it was, taking all that in, and you're processing it and you're feeding the computer with that information. Right. So what happens is your mind just wants you to go back and get your body to feel. So how it does that is to go back to that hard drive and say, oh, we have this disappointment. Let's use disappointment. Let's use not good enough, unworthiness, lack. We'll use all these things to pull out to create a life.
Right.
And then suddenly when you realize that, when you just start to figure that out, unpack it, right? It's so amazing what happens. Number one, the first thing that happens is you feel it all over again.
Right.
And that's the hard part. Right. That's the unfolding. That's the letting go of it. But man,
becoming aware of it, I think, is like the hardest thing.
Number one.
That's number one.
And the most number one of being aware of, okay, so this is the process. This is what you're going to go through. We're going to excavate. Yes. And we're going to dig these little feelings out.
Right.
And we're going to get these to bubble up. But as they bubble up and they come out, they're going to get stuck in your throat. And you're going to have to voice these things out.
Right.
And it is that when it's stuck in the throat and it's stuck in your like the whole way up, it is torture. You just feel like you're dying.
Yeah.
Because you're calling for those emotions.
Right. And like you're kind of wired to do everything you can not to experience that.
You don't want to.
It's basically buried fire.
You don't want to experience the pain.
Right. No.
So you're doing exactly what you just said. It's like you're standing on a bridge with a rubber band tied around your ankles, and someone's going to say, "Listen, it'll be fine. I'm going to push you, and you're going to fall over." and just jump. Just jump. What are you talking about?
Right.
I'm standing on a bridge here.
Right.
It's
Leave me alone.
And you're telling me to jump off it.
Right.
I have been brought up my whole life to never
Right.
get in a stranger's car.
Right.
But now I'm going to, on my phone, I'm going to hit a button. A guy's going to pull up. I'm going to pay him to get in that car.
Right.
So we're calling for it.
Right.
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 And it is kind of what it's like, because we're asking them, listen, you're going to have to go there.
Right.
If you want to let go of this, you're going to have to be vulnerable, and you're going to have to go there. You're going to have to trust. You're not necessarily, you have to trust in me, but most importantly, you have to trust in this universal power, this source that runs through you. And I'm going to explain to you how to know that that exists for you. Number one, that you are God energy, universal energy, whatever you want to call it.
Right.
When you having the awareness, like you said, Jeff, awareness is so big in this, because if you have the awareness that that exists for you, that you are that universal source energy, then it's not Jeff anymore.
Right.
It's this other thing, this power.
Right.
You know, when I was paralyzed, laying in a bed, I would watch people come in and out of my room, and I would think, what the hell is it that I am now disconnected from that I was once connected to? What is that? Because Scott's all here, but I can't move anything. And
interesting.
I used to lay in bed, and my heart would beat, blood would pump, right? Cells would live and die, regenerate.
Right.
But yet Scott wasn't doing all that. Scott would move his hand, he would throw a football. Scott wasn't doing that. So what was that? And now I'm disconnected.
This reminds me of the Eckhart Tolle book. Remember when he was sitting on that bench and he was like, I think it was Power of Now or New World, whatever, New Earth.
Right.
He was like, I'm so tired of myself. Wait a minute.
Yeah.
How can there be two of me? Right? That whole subject of identity, when you start picking at it, like you basically laying in a bed for 4 months with being paralyzed and not even being able to blink is a strange gift. Not many people see it as a gift. Not many people.
But a gift.
It takes a while to see that buried treasure, right? That is definitely like one of your big gifts.
Without a doubt. Not in the moment.
Not in the moment. No.
Not in the moment at all.
No. Because it's hell.
Difficult,
it's hell.
For sure.
Right.
It is hell.
It's hell.
It's painful.
Yes.
And it's hell, but there's a knowing of that, okay, so I'm on this road for some reason. I don't know why. Right. And it's the letting go of trying to figure it out. Right. Trying to let go. It was complete surrender in every possible way. Surrender to my body, surrender to my finances, surrender to my life. Yeah. Everything. So it is the ultimate, we're just going to listen. We have a plan for you because you're such an asshole. You will not listen to us, says God, says the universe.
Right. Yes.
You won't listen, Scott Sunderland. So we have a plan that you cannot do anything about. We are going to reboot the computer.
Right.
And that's the power went out. And literally in 3 days, I went from just a regular 35-year-old guy working his ass off to laying in that bed, unable to move.
I have a question for you that I just came up with, and you're either going to love it or hate it.
Oh, I'll love it. I guarantee it.
So at some point when I was doing the Wayne Dyer, et al., right? Deepak Chopra, right? Mm-hmm. I kind of got this impression that they were trying to have me accept 100% responsibility for soup to nuts, my entire, not just human experience, but everything experience, right? Mm-hmm. In and out of earth and time, right? Mm-hmm. So that meant that not only was I responsible for everything that happens on earth, but I'm responsible for everything that I'm almost like made it happen before I got here. Have you ever considered that? That
you may have actually just opened Pandora's box.
You may have wrote this story before you were born with your guides.
Listen, I'm gonna tell you right now. This is such a great question, and thank you so much for asking this because, man, I'm telling you what, that's a tough one. This is
swallowing
this
that
is who I
pill.
am.
Swallowing.
But listen, there is so, and listen, I get it. I'll tell you what, I talk to a lot of people.
Okay.
And, people going through some really, really hard times. Some people just going through some minimalistic stuff, anxiety or to depression to, I was just diagnosed with cancer.
Right.
Yep. Everybody has their story.
The only thing that's different is the volume. That's.
Yep. And I'll tell you what, my answer never changes. It's all you.
It's all you.
It's all you. It was all me.
Right.
It was my fault, because I know this without question, because 4 months before I laid in that hospital bed, I was working 18 hours a day in another state, away from my, brand new 1-year-old son. And all I could think about was, I just want all of this to go away. I was so stressed out. I was working for people that were screaming at me every day. And I was behind on my projects, and I was afraid I'm not going to get paid. They're not going to hire me again.
Right.
All I want to do is go home, and I just want to lay in bed. That's all I kept thinking.
Right.
And then when I'm laying in that bed 4 months later, I'm thinking,
I made this happen.
You asked for it.
Yeah, I made this happen.
You got the bonus plan, but I
could have taken
really
a vacation.
But
I chose this instead.
A little bit better, but I went this way. I went this way.
Right.
And don't we all do that? We all have that power. We all have that strength.
Right. Well, for me, so you were in your early 20s, right?
30s. I was in my 30s. Okay. Yeah, I was like mid 30s.
Right. Okay.
Mid 30s.
Yep. Okay. So like 35, 36-ish.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, about that. Yeah.
So for me, my big trauma in my life was I had like some non-diagnosed depression when I was about in my early 20s.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. That's when my stuff came up for me. And so, I went through suicide attempts, and we can talk a little bit more about like, it was an interesting time for me, because I met a guy who was a college professor, and then he brought me home. He invited me to his house to do body work, energy work, and taught me how to do meditation. Right. And then he went away, and I forgot about that stuff until I was about 34 or 35. Right. And I went through all of this shit, right? All my journey. I don't want to get too much into it, but suicide attempts, like blaming. I think my big thing, my big aha was probably like 4 or 5 years after I didn't really recover from that depression. I just said, fuck it. Right.
Yeah.
And so I was still carrying the backpack around So I didn't deal with it. I didn't process it. I was just like, I'm just going to forget about this and not do anything. Right. So that you're not done yet. You actually haven't even started yet. You've just decided to, start drinking more. I don't know what people do. So then I had a big fight with my wife, and I realized that I had a bunch of stuff that I wasn't even blaming her. Right. In the moment, I was blaming her for all of my shit. Okay. And after the fight, I was like, what? It's not her fault.
No.
It's not anybody's fault.
No.
It's my fault.
It's you. And here's the thing.
Yeah.
That's you hanging on. And I'm going to tell you a great story of a guy that we worked with. He came through our course. Potato Joe. And
That's awesome.
Love him. He's from Belgium. Fantastic guy. But did a lot of work, on himself. And he just had this thing of he just couldn't get past this not being good enough. And it was all related to his father. And he came on the call, and he's like, I have a story. I'm like, oh, bring it, baby,
Yeah.
And he's like, I'm sitting in my flat. My girlfriend opens the oven, and she says, hey, can you help me get these potatoes out of the oven? And he said immediately this rush of anger came up, and it was like, oh, you stupid woman, what is your problem? You just can't get the stupid tray out of the oven. And he's just like, whoa, where did this come from? Like, he's like, I was thrown back in the chair. Like, It came so quickly. And he said, in an instant, I was in the woods with my father and my brother. And my father was teaching my 12-year-old brother how to run a chainsaw. And there is 9-year-old me, and I'm trying to get my dad's attention as he's trying to teach, my brother not to cut his leg off with his chainsaw. And he says, Dad. And all of a sudden he said, my father snapped back at me and he said, Bastian, can you not do anything for yourself? And he said, that was my moment. Wow. He said, I knew it right then. This has been me. And that came from inside me, and it came up and out of my mouth. And he said, I had the biggest aha moment of my life. It wasn't anybody. It was me, though, that held on to it.
Right.
And he said, now I felt like I let go of it. And I said, I was like floored. And I said, dude, so what happened? And he goes, we forgot about the potatoes. I went up to her. I grabbed her harder than I've ever grabbed her before. And we didn't come out of the bedroom for 3 hours. And I said, beautiful.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Perfect.
Right?
Yes.
And it is. He said, I put something down that day. And it's exactly what we do. We take these moments, because that means so much. And it always, with guys, it always has to do, guys and girls, it always has to do with father, mother, or a guardian, a teacher, like even snapping back. And it can be literally a 5-second, quick yelling or conversation or whatever. It's just a little
tape that
and you replay that over in your mind, because think about it in the moment when you were that little Jeff and, your dad said something to you, or even, somebody at school said something to you, right?
Of course.
You hold on to it.
Yes.
And then what has to happen is it's such a jolt for your body. This massive, energy comes up so you can feel this, moment. Well, your mind knows that. It says, oh, wait a minute. Now I got that. Now I got the chainsaw thing. So anytime I need to get Bastian to feel, then all I need to do is bring that back up. I just have to put an event in front of him.
We'll just play that tape.
We'll play that tape.
Right.
And it is the awareness, though, of, and that is what we do, the awareness of showing people the awareness, how to build the awareness.
Yeah, you can't even start. You can't even really start until you have something to work with, right? That's the hugest. It's sort of like going into CI. What is it? Crime scene investigation mode, right? CSI.
Crime, CSI.
Yes, you're going in the CSI mode. So sleuthing is a lot. So once you've got a piece to work with, right? Yeah. That's where the practice comes in, right? Yeah. The practice is almost like, it's like, okay, I'm going fishing. I've got to go dig up some more buried treasure. When you look at it like that, where you're going, I know there's, like I said, I started this conversation pre-show chat. I've got more work to do that I'm not even aware of. Right. Mm-hmm. And I've kind of gotten lazy on my, going out fishing for more things to work on. Yeah. I think we all do that. Right.
But, you got to be ready for it.
Well,
that's why
you do, but you also, like, even my meditation practice is kind of falling off too, right? So a lot of times you're just meditating and you're not even trying to find buried treasure or dig up the past or looking for stuff, and all of a sudden you just go, oh.
Because you're not looking.
Right.
Because you're not looking.
Right.
That's when it can come.
Yeah. Right. Because you're open. Can come
when you're not looking for it.
Right.
Because
that's perfect.
Who's doing the looking? Jeff's doing the looking. Scott's doing the looking. We don't know the answer. We don't have the answer.
Right.
We are just this meat suit, and we think we're this person. We were talking in the pre-show about oh my God, what are we talking about?
We talked about identity.
No, we were talking about Jim Carrey. Jim Carrey's the commencement speech, right?
Right.
We think we're this character.
Yes.
I am so good at believing that I am this character. And, back to the bed of seeing people walking in and out. I can't be this guy. Who am I?
That's amazing. That
how
in
are they
and of
doing
itself
that?
Is like a gift.
And like people will say,
because I read that. So, like, what was that book, the Eckhart Tolle book, where I think he called it like Basket or something, right? So it's like we've got an imaginary basket in our head, and you can put stuff in the basket. And this is right.
Yeah.
And like, this is my name. It's called Jeff.
Yeah.
Right. And then you put like Jeff is bald and he's fat and he was in the Air Force. And and then after a while, we're pretty sure we're the basket. Right. And its name is Jeff
Well, that's
Smith,
what you see.
And it's got a house and a car and
But that's what you see. Because when you put those things.
Yeah. He's like, that's not you. You're not your fucking basket, buddy.
You're not the basket.
You're not the fucking basket.
You're the thing putting the things in the basket.
Yes.
You think you're the basket, though.
Correct.
And it's so funny that you say that, because that's how I describe it as fishbowl.
Nice.
Your fishbowl gets so, over time, you're in that fishbowl. And if you don't clean it, which we don't clean it, right? It gets dirtier and dirtier and dirtier.
Right.
And it gets
that's good. I like
less air.
Right.
So pretty soon it's stagnant water. You are struggling for breath.
Right.
You're this, a 45-year-old guy trying to provide for his family, make everybody happy, has a boss that he has to answer to. He doesn't want to have to answer to anybody. Oh, maybe I should go out and start my own business. Oh, but what am I going to do?
Right.
All these thoughts are generating in this guy's head. Oh, and by the way, I'm going to go to sleep tonight at 11:30, and I'm going to have to get up tomorrow at 5, and I'm going to have to do the whole thing all over again.
Yep.
So when is the happiness supposed to show up? When am I going to be that?
When can I breathe a little?
When can I breathe? Yeah. And it becomes weight. And that it's all the food that got in the fishbowl, and it's all stagnant and thick, and you can't see out of the glass anymore because it's all got the film on it. Well, you got to build a new fishbowl.
Yeah.
You got to build that so you can step out. So you got to let water in, flush the old out.
Yeah.
And that's how it works. Right. So you need the flushing. You need the shit that's going to come in. Or actually, you need the fresh that's going to come in to push out the shit.
Well, you got to put the shit in the garden because that's where it can grow stuff.
Yeah. Well, that's true too, because that helps you.
You're right.
It helps you.
The shit is your buried treasure.
Well, the shit is the motivator. The pain, the shit, pain is the motivator. So pre-show we were talking about, I talk about all the time, the room on fire.
Okay.
And I was in a room on fire. And
it was
sometimes you're in a room.
Okay.
It was my life.
Oh.
It was Scott. It wasn't my life. It was Scott.
Okay.
And it wasn't like there's a little fire in the corner. It was against the wall, flames licking at my face. Wow. And there was only one. I had only one choice. I had to go through those flames to find out maybe there's a wall, there's a door on the other side.
Right.
Maybe these flames are only right in front of me, but I had to do that. And I found the door. That door for me was meditation, breath work, all of that, right?
Right.
The law of attraction, all of that really kind of guided me. So I am very good at diving all in, as, hey, listen, I just want to go home to go to bed, right? Yeah, well, I ended up in that bed. I'm the same way, on the other side too. So we wait till those things show up for us, cancer. We wait for that anxiety to get so bad, that depression to get so bad. So when you're laying in that moment and you're thinking, all right, I have two choices. This life is so difficult right now. I can either check out or I can do something about it. And that's the moment that people have been waiting for, but you don't have to wait for that moment.
No, that was why I made this show. Just so you know.
Yeah.
How do we help people not have to, you still have to do the work, but
you do,
the volume doesn't have to be on 11.
but I agree 100%. And you don't have to wait for that.
You don't have to wait. I think that's the key.
Any disease, right? Any disease is really stuck energy. That's just all it is.
Right.
And I remember talking to a woman who had cancer. She was just diagnosed with cancer. And my partner went through this with his wife, and she passed. She had ovarian cancer, and tried to find everything to heal her,
Right.
And I was talking to this woman, and she was saying and I said, listen, I'm going to tell you my story. And I told her my story. And I said, the thing that I deduced from all of that was, if it wasn't for me laying in that bed, broken, helpless, hopeless, I would not be living the life that I'm living right now, because it made me look at me.
Mm-hmm.
It made me say, okay, who's responsible for this? And I couldn't point to anybody else but me.
Right.
I said, this is coming up for you because it's not the cancer. The cancer is saying, come, look at me, try to heal me, try to fix me, try to get rid of me. This cancer is your savior. So if you go into it with thinking that by releasing all of this trauma in your body, you are literally flushing the system. You are energizing the system behind the flushing of the system. You are curing yourself. And I've watched it. I've watched people do it. I've watched people who couldn't move their arm suddenly move their arm. And it's energy. Yeah. It is just forgetting who you are and stepping into who you really are.
At some point when I was going through stuff, you know, like we were talking about the depression and then more stuff, you know, as you keep going on this sort of like work, right? You just, I can't remember. So like when we were probably late 30s, we tried to have kids. Turns out we didn't want to have kids, but we were just trying to have kids because everybody was telling us to have kids.
Yeah. And then everybody else is doing it.
Right. So then we kind of like we had to go through some stuff to get to that answer. That was not easy. Okay. Being that honest, not only with yourself, but with your partner, that's you're digging up some stuff. Okay.
Yeah.
But we got to that point and we were like, neither one of us really want to have kids. We high-fived and said, let's keep the money. Right. But then it sort of opened a door of, I want to do this more now, because that was really hard to get to that thing. But the result was just awesome. Right. So I was sort of like kind of hooked. So I was like, now I need to go and dig around in there. I think I got a book by Dr. Phil, of all people.
Yeah.
But you'd be amazed because it was very much, you know, it's like go back in time and relive pieces of your childhood where you think maybe you might have some stuff, right? And relive it and keep reliving it and try to figure something out, right? Something's going to come
or to
out.
see it a different way. Have a different perspective.
Yeah. I think that the gist was, you know, you go back and you look at everybody and you take your piece, right? You take your piece.
Yeah.
Okay, I was a kid. Okay, so kids don't process information like adults. You have to forgive that kid now, right? For doing the best he could with what he had then.
Oh, God, yeah.
Right?
It's so
huge,
true.
Though. I mean,
it is so big.
It's huge.
It's so big.
So
I mean, listen, when I
go ahead,
sitting on that step the other night, it was, oh my God, I'm here.
Right.
And it's so funny, you know. I mean, I'm 6 foot something, you know, 200 pounds, you know, pretty athletic guy, you know.
Right.
And construction owner, you know, the whole thing. And I swear to God, I think I'm this 4-year-old little kid. I really think I'm this little kid.
Sure.
And my wife says, don't you see yourself in the mirror? Like, you're a big guy. And I'm like, wow, I'm really not a big. And when I saw that picture, I'm like, oh my God, wow, that step looks so small. And the house looks so small. The backyard looks so small because I saw it as this little boy, but I forgot. I thought I was that little boy forever up to, you know, a couple of days ago.
Right.
And now I saw myself on that step and I'm like, wow, that's who I am. That's a totally different version of myself. I've never seen this version of me.
Right.
And it suddenly kind of sparked this, I don't know, fire, energy, whatever.
Yes.
You know?
Well, you're still working on that piece.
Well, we all are.
Yeah, but you're specific to that thing. You're still in process. You probably are not even integrating yet. So yeah, you know, you're still in process.
I'll tell you what. Anybody that says, I don't care who you are.
Right.
Anybody that says that, oh yeah, I've been through all that and I've reached my spot.
No,
they're lying to you.
Right. Well, because they're lying to themselves. It doesn't
it
stop.
is.
Yeah.
It doesn't stop.
No.
I mean, it gets so much better and so much freer, but it is. You're going to step out of 10th grade. You're going to go into 11th, and you're going to know better than the third graders.
Right.
You're going to know about all the third graders out there saying that, oh yeah, well that's just, crazy. Okay. Well, I'll talk to you when you get to 10th grade, if you get here,
Right.
because I know what I know.
Right.
I know what I know. Right.
Right. So we talked a little bit about the illness question. So let's talk about this hope thing, because that was fun and it kind of lit you up in the pre-show chat. So we were talking about how Jim Carrey had called hope a beggar, right? So
My wife's favorite term.
Yeah. So, and then I told you the story about Admiral, I think his name was Stockwell, being in Vietnam and in a prison camp, and how he survived by two things, right? Facing the ugly truth that might possibly happen. I could possibly die in this prison camp, and that could be the end of my story. I have to accept that first, and then do everything in my fucking power to make sure that doesn't happen. So, and then the opposite is like the next question to the Admiral was, so who got in trouble first? And he was like, oh, it was the optimists who would say, we're going to be out of here by Christmas. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you went through something like that when you were in that bed. So talk a little bit about those feelings.
Well, when I first was in the hospital,
right. The first hospital, or the second hospital, or the third hospital.
Before I got into rehab and all that, it was the first. It was so funny. Well, it wasn't funny at the time, but I had this doctor who, it was in Jefferson down in Philly, and pretty prominent for this, kind of stuff. It's like big hospital. We deal with this kind of stuff, trauma. Major. People have been through major trauma, major accidents, all that. Right. So I'm in the right place.
Okay.
And he comes into my room and he has a class with him. So he has probably 10 students.
Wow.
And he had he's looking me, and he's, this big guy, like just coming in, walking in, and he says, yeah, hey Scott, how are you? Listen, I'm going to tell you right now, you'll be walking out of here in a week. And behind him was this young female student. And I saw her just shaking her head no.
Wow.
And I thought, I paid more attention to her than I did him.
Wow.
And it got progressively worse.
Right.
And then, I was in there for 2 weeks, and, you'll be able to eat solid food tomorrow. Okay. Do the test. You're not ready for solid food, and it would start off by those little things,
Right.
And then, I'll never forget it. Like the whole time, probably for the first month, I kept, is it tomorrow that I'm going to start to walk? Is it tomorrow or my hand's going to move? And people would say that. Well, yeah, we're going to get mobility back, but I would keep getting worse.
Wow.
Keep getting worse. And it was,
so this was point, before they knew what the hell was going on, basically.
They knew what I had. They knew what I had
at that point. Okay.
They knew kind of what it was going on. They didn't realize the severity of it. And they also told me, well, this is the other thing the doctor told me. Big mistake. The harder you work, Mr. Sunderland, to get back, the faster you will get back. Big mistake. Because I exhausted myself.
Right.
They would put my hands on these pedal machines, and they would strap them. They would tape my hands to the pedals, because I would ask them to do that. I couldn't hold the pedals. So just tape my hands to it. And I would just sit there for hours trying to move these things. And, I couldn't move, so, I mean, I barely made any rotations at all,
Wow.
But it was the thought. But at the same time, I'm kind of exhausting myself of it.
Right.
And
it's not really helping that much. Right.
No.
Right.
No. And it came to this one night, and it was in Jefferson, and they would lay me, they would flip me over, different. And the nurse laid me on my side, and I rolled over onto my face, and my face is in the pillow, and I cannot move. And I am starting to suffocate. And I'm thinking, oh, so this is it. This is how I'm going to die.
Wow.
I'm going to suffocate in this pillow, because I literally cannot move.
Save myself. Right.
Yeah. And it was like the humility in that moment of, this is the end for me. This is how it all ends. No one's going to know. And they're just going to come in the morning and they're going to flip me over and I'm going to be blue. And
wow,
that was like, man, I didn't think it could get this bad. I didn't think it would ever be this bad. And then of course, somebody come magically in and just flips me over like, oh, flip you over. The big breath. And you just saved my life, but there was no talking. There was no saying that, right? So it was always that. And
wow.
I'll tell you what it was.
You're one flip away from suffocating.
Yep.
Wow.
And it was that moment. It really was that moment. It was the great giving up. It was the great surrender for me. It was, okay, you got a plan, whatever it is, whoever you are, you have a plan for me. And I am just putty. I'll do what you tell me to do. I will be who I'm supposed to be.
Wow.
Just let me fucking walk again. That's all I ask. And I'll relinquish myself to it. And it's one thing to have a man who has hope to do things, right? Hope to get to the next week, right? It's a whole nother fucking story when you see a man with no hope, because there is no fight. There is no fight. It's just complete surrender. It's complete. For me, it was just
like the air going out of a balloon.
Air going out of the balloon.
Right.
Empty balloon is just kind of floating on the surface of the water.
Right.
And that's where it comes. That's where that voice comes. And it's so funny, Jeff. I had that knowing there is no fucking way that I am not going to ever walk again. There's just no way. It cannot be written this way.
Right.
I have too much. I have been through too much. I have seen too much.
Right.
So this has to be the great learning for me. So I read all the books. I did Tony Robbins. I did Eckhart. I did all the books. And this is where it led me. Laying in bed, broken. I listened to Dr. Wayne. I listened to him.
Right.
I listened to him and Deepak on stage talking about ice cream. And this is where I end up.
Right.
So what do you have to tell me? And I listened.
I'm glad you did, because you're still here.
Oh, me too, brother. Me too, man. Me too, obviously. Very happy. Very happy.
So,
but it's all in the learning.
Let's do this. So I'm going to ask you the $1 million question. What are you?
A conduit.
Ooh, very good.
I'm a conduit. And it took a lot of learning and a lot of failure to, the successes and the failures to understand I am just a conduit for energy. Right. And I just open it up. And, I put my story out there for people to see that that's possible for me. They can see that. They can say, I saw what you went through and I know I can do that. And I love when people tell me their stories. I love it. I love it when people tell me, I had one person we were helping, she couldn't get out of her apartment. And, she put a post up and she said, I am camping in the woods and it's 30 degrees outside. There's snow everywhere. And just 2 months ago, I had to crawl out of my apartment. And here I am. And
camping in the woods.
Did this.
Yeah.
And now here I am alone, camping in the woods. And I did this. Wow. And it's like, because she just took the, I don't care anymore attitude. I just don't care anymore.
Right.
I am going to be.
I've been in that spot. Yes.
Yeah. And listen, there is
you still got more work to do, but it's step one.
Oh, but here's the thing. It's such a step one moment because you realize, and this is the greatest thing, people just don't understand when you get to that point, like I did, that's surrender.
Right.
That's when you literally get put on the launch pad. And that's when all the little elves come back and they start putting you back together because they've been trying to put you back together.
Right.
But they can't because you say, no, I don't want
You're
that. I have
fighting
to
them.
do it this way.
Right. You're
fighting them the whole time.
Right.
And you're like, just stop. You don't need to do this anymore.
Right.
Your life is waiting. You asked to be happy. We're trying to give it to you. It's not going to come in another house. It's not going to come in a different car.
Right.
We're going to show you how to do it. But you have to be the conduit for us to work through you.
Nice.
That's why I think we all have that. We all have that conduit. We are all that. The moment we stop being the asshole and plug in the conduit. I love that.
Right. I remember I'm going to ask you the who are you too, so prepare yourself for that. But one of my suicide attempts was with rat poison. Okay.
Oh boy.
Yeah. So don't do that. Nobody do that.
No.
It's bad.
No.
But I also had conditions on my suicide attempts. And I just thought of this the other day. But anyway, if I wasn't going to be dead the next day, I had to get up and go to work. So I did, because I didn't die, right? And that was a really, really bad day. You don't want to eat rat poison and then go to work. It's not a good look. Okay. It's worse than a hangover. Take your worst hangover and times it by 10. It's really bad. But the power comes from, the volume on all that work shit that I was worried about got dialed down to about 2.
Yeah, right.
Right?
Yeah.
Because
it's a great equalizer.
I survived rat poison, for fuck's sake.
Yeah. Well, it's a great equalizer. and listen, I love that because I remember someone was saying, and it's so funny because so many people have either contemplated or tried, suicide because I think we're just trying to fit into this fucking nonsense that we, we believe that we are.
You were depressed, right? So to me,
sure
it's
a hopelessness.
Depression is a thing. It's an actual physical thing in your brain.
No question about it.
Right. And if you're there and you happen to succeed, then you are a victim of depression.
Without a doubt. Right. But here's the thing. And we talked about this earlier of it's just you.
It's always you, obviously. I had another comment on this because I think this was a big thing for me because our language is so loaded. So I can say I am 100% responsible for my entire experience. And I agree with that statement. I am not necessarily to blame for anything. And here's the difference. So blame has a sort of embedded deserved punishment inside of it, right? So you can be responsible for a thing and accept responsibility and not deserve punishment. Does that make sense? The difference?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Because we're punishing ourselves all the time too.
And see, that's the thing. I mean, that's what I try to get people to really get to the place of, because when they get to this place, it becomes a launch pad for them. I want them to understand that it has been them. And when I mean it has been them, it's not them that has put them in the position that they are. Oh, well, you're telling me, say a woman came to me and she said, so you're telling me that my husband being abusive to me is my fault. And I said, no, that's not it, because there is no fault. Right. There is no fault.
Not fault.
My father being abusive to me was my fault. No, there is no fault. The fact of the matter is, it doesn't matter. And why it doesn't matter is because you have got to move away from that. Because if you have that running through your mind, my father abused me, my father abused me, my father abused me, guess what you're going to have? You're going to have a husband that's going to step into the same play,
role.
The same character,
the same role
that your father did. Why? Because it is energetic connection.
Right.
You want that feeling. You don't want it, but that's
you're attracting it.
That's your habit. That's what your energetic connection is too.
Right.
So perfect
You're
example.
creating it, right?
Yeah. I had a friend of mine who was getting married, and she had a very, very difficult childhood with her father. Just really difficult. Father was a really good guy. She just saw him as a bully, whatever. And maybe there was some other stuff there. I really didn't know. But the day of the wedding, and it was just at somebody's house, very impromptu thing. Husband steps in. He's got a black leather vest, white leather button-down shirt. He's got black jeans and these black leather shoes. The father steps in, black leather vest, white button-down shirt, black jeans, same exact black shoes. She married her father. Now, everyone would say, well, and I mean, everybody saw it. Like, oh my God,
it's
they're
obvious.
wearing the same.
Yes.
And it's like, hello. So what does that tell you? We are just repeating the trauma. Why? Because your attention is on the trauma. For me, I didn't realize, I didn't know my childhood was bad, so to speak. It wasn't bad for me. I loved it.
Okay.
I loved it. I didn't know.
You didn't know it was traumatic.
You weren't supposed to feed yourself. I didn't know you were supposed to do that. It made me a strong person. Sure. I mean, sure, I got a lot of side effect. I got a lot of noise in my brain.
Right.
That rolled around in my head all the time.
Right.
But I didn't know it until into my late teens when I would tell the story of how I grew up and people's jaw would be open and like, dude, you were neglected.
That's not normal.
I was?
Right. I was?
Yeah. It's like, that's not normal. I was neglected? No, was I? I had food. I had frozen hot dogs. I had dog biscuits. I loved them. How lucky was I? I got to eat frozen hot dogs whenever I wanted to. I got to eat out of the can whenever I wanted to. I loved it. I got to eat whatever I want because my mom, she wasn't there to cook for me. So kind of good. Right? I was self-sufficient, but then you start taking that in.
You got to pull that apart.
You start running that. Right. Yeah. You start running that ball around. And so that's why I say, take that stuff and make it power. Turn it into power so you can go find your happiness.
Right.
Be in the room on fire. It's okay to be in the room on fire. Just have the strength to go through the flames. I went through the flames. Yeah. You went through the flames. We are the proof you can go through the fucking flames because there's a door on the other side. And in that door, that's where your freedom lies. So you don't have to do hard things sometimes in order to find that door.
So like I always tell people, like, you have to do this work. Mm-hmm. You don't have to do it alone.
Right. But you know what? They don't have to do it. They don't have to.
Well, they really don't.
Tons of people out there. They don't have to do it. No. And because maybe they're okay. Maybe they're living their life and they're all right. I have no problem with anybody but when somebody steps onto the field and they don't know where to go and they don't know who to turn to.
Right.
That's when I say, hey, come here.
Yeah.
I want to tell you something. You're not who you think you are. You're a fuck ton powerful thing you are. Right. And you just don't realize it yet. So let me take you on a little journey. Let me tell you a little story about who you really are. Because you are the God. You're the miracle, and it's just waiting to come out, man. And we all touch it. We get there sometimes through meditation. We have that flow. You know, Tom Brady he's no different than me and you. He just has flow. Right. He just has this thing. All I need to do is do this. I see a target and I'm going to throw the ball. He isn't directing the ball. He isn't putting the spin on the ball. He automatically does it.
Right.
So what is that? What is that power that is automatically doing it? And we all possess it. So why wouldn't you access it? Why wouldn't you go to use it? Because listen, this is why I love people with these stories, is because it gives people the permission to go out and be fucking great. Live a life that's inspired, that's happy.
Yeah.
You don't need all the shit.
Right.
Just love yourself. Just be happy. You know, this is what we say in our little Freedom Project, in our little Beyond Limits course. And I love it. I love it. It's one of my most favorite sayings. And I remember telling this to somebody, and she was like, and I walked into the bakery and the woman looked at me and she gave me this look. And I said, you know what you tell that person? Fuck you. I love myself anyway. And I said, in fact, I want you to go through your whole life for the next 2 days. And in your mind, anybody that even looks at you, say, oh, no, thank you. Fuck you. I love myself anyway. I said, awesome. You could say it nicely, kindly. You can say it as, a pushback, but use it because it builds that love in yourself. Because haven't we hated ourselves long enough for not fitting in, for not being the person that, mom and dad wanted us to be?
Right.
Oh, my God. Just live, be happy.
Right.
You could be a garbage man and be just so fucking happy. I've met guys who have lived in the street. They were so happy. And here I am, the construction company owner, and I was miserable.
Yeah.
What has this guy got that I don't have? He has nothing. He has a mattress on the sidewalk. True story. A mattress on the. You know what, Scotty? I'm just a happy guy. I'm just a happy guy, Scotty. I'm just a happy guy. And you let me know, man. I'll make sure your spot is free when you come down to this job.
Wow.
Thanks, man. And he just
happy
living
guy.
Life.
Eckhart,
happy guy.
Eckhart Tolle on the bench in the park.
Yeah.
So we have gone a little over. So let's.
I told you we would.
I knew we would, and there should definitely be like a part 2, 3, 4, 5. You know, and
I love it.
You're welcome anytime because we didn't do anything on this sheet here that we were going to do. Well, we did some. We did some.
Not do that. I
know.
said you would get one question,
maybe,
and then you go down the rabbit hole.
We kind of did one, sort of.
Yeah,
kind of, sort of. Okay, so. You've got Freedom Project. Talk a little bit about Freedom Project. Talk a little bit about the book. Talk a little bit about the Facebook group. All the stuffs.
Facebook. I'll tell you what. That is really something I'm really super proud of. So we have a private Facebook group. You can invite yourself to it, where we talk all these things.
Right.
And that is called the Freedom Project. It is a closed Facebook group, but just invite yourself to see that.
I'm linking to it in the show notes.
Yeah, because listen, I screw things up. So I'm probably not going to get emails right. I'm just telling everybody right now. I'm not going to get emails right. I'm going to get the website wrong. And I know the book is simple because it's just called Finding Ugly. So I keep it to I'm simple.
Finding Ugly is good. That's a good title. It's easy to remember.
Yep. And that's on Amazon. And there's a whole nother story.
Right. About Finding Ugly.
About that.
Right.
About Finding Ugly. That's a whole nother deal. And our website is thefreedomproject222.com. And there you can find all of us. And we do events, and we teach breath work. We teach meditation. We teach how to really step out of yourself and into the power that you really are. That's really what we do, and we do it really, really well, because I have 2 partners that we do it with, and really had so many tremendous results. I mean, seriously, tremendous results. So, and my email is scott@thefreedomproject222.com. So plenty of ways that you can reach out to us and find out what we do. And just even those little things, we do free things all the time, just to help you step out of yourself, because it's only you that's holding you back. I promise you. I promise you, it's just you.
And maybe it might be the real you instead of the bucket or the fishbowl.
Well, you got to listen to the right voice.
That's right.
Got to listen to
the right voice. Yes, and the other voice is loud.
Yeah.
And after you do what it says, you feel hungover and sick. So that's.
Oh, God.
But the quiet voice, you have to be really quiet in your head to hear the quiet voice.
Yep.
Yes.
The best way to describe it is, if you're the actor on stage, and there's a guy with a knife behind you, and there's this faint voice out in the audience saying, "There's a guy with a knife behind you." That's the real you, because it sees all of it. You're not just a character on stage. This is a Jim Carrey, by the way.
Yeah.
You are the whole theater, the whole freaking theater. You can be any character you want to be. So why be stuck with you?
Amen.
Step out.
Be something new. All right.
Oh, see the vision.
Scott, this has been a blast, as I knew it would be. Thanks for hanging out with me and sharing your story as usual. This has been a blast. So, hey, reach out in like 6 months, year, or whenever, and we'll do part 2.
Oh, I love it.
All right,
brother. For sure, Jeff. Thank you so much for having me.
All right. Have a good one.
Thanks for taking the time to ride along with us on another episode of Vroom Vroom Veer. For podcast info and show notes, be sure to head over to vvveer.com. That's VVER.com. Man, that's fun to say. And we'll catch up with you next time here on Vroom Vroom Veer.